Hi there everyone, thanks for joining me for Coffee and Card at Home tonight. So today we started using a new stamp set and punch for a new month of Coffee and Card sessions, and this time we are using a jar of flowers. It's a really lovely stamp set with some beautiful floral images, and of course the other great thing is that it coordinates with the jar punch. So we're going to be using those as a bundle for the whole of this month. And the ladies that I met up with this morning over Zoom made some beautiful cards using this design. And so tonight I'm going to show you how you can recreate it. So we're going to get started. Just move a few things around on my desk. There's quite a lot of components needed for this because this is kind of going back to something we haven't done for a little while. We've got some good old colouring in to do, which I think will be nice. So I just need to make sure that I've got access to all the bits I need before we get going. So what we are using is we're using a very vanilla card base. I'll just put those two over to the side, and then we've got a piece of card. Let me just check my measurements for you, which is 8 centimeters by 12 centimeters, and this is Petal Pink. And then we're going to need a bit of basic white that we can stamp our flowers onto, and then we're going to be using a bit of ribbon at the end. So I'm just going to put my card base to the side for a minute, because actually that's going to be one of the last things that we need today. We're going to start with the Petal Pink first of all, and what I tried to do on this one is I was after that kind of sort of gingham tablecloth effect is what I was trying to go for. So this is not to everyone's taste. I must admit some of the ladies this morning weren't entirely sure that they liked this approach, but I will show you how it works nonetheless, and you can decide whether you like it too. So we're using the blends, Stampin Blends, and we're using the dark and the light of the same colour. So I've chosen Calypso Coral because I think that works quite nicely with the Petal Pink. And the nice thing about the blends is they've got a double ends, so you've got a thick end and a thin end. So we're going to start off by using the thick end of the dark pen. I'm going to start off by drawing lines down. Now you can see I've gone a bit wobbly. I think that adds to the effect, but like I say, it's not quite to everyone's taste. If you really don't like this, you could get a ruler and do it straight. And we're going to go horizontal now. Similar sort of spacing, but don't worry if it's not exactly perfect, because I think actually it adds to the kind of charm of it if it's not quite in line. So that was the dark we've used. We're now going to use the light, and we're going to use the thin end this time. And we're going to go to the right hand side of the line we've just drawn, and we're going to go quite close to it. I'm going to try and follow that line. So if you have gone a bit wonky this time, you can try and follow that wonkiness if you want. It may not be perfect, don't worry. Okay, and then we're going to go same again. We're going to go underneath this time, quite close. And a lot of that is actually going to be covered over in the end, so you probably won't worry too much about if you've got a few, you know, wiggly lines going on. But like I say, if that really isn't your sort of thing, you could always get a ruler and draw them perfectly straight and measure them, even if you want to do that. Okay, we're going to put that to one side for a minute now, because we don't need that just yet. So we're going to bring back our piece of basic white, and I'm using Memento Black ink. I'm going to stamp my jar. I'll just show you on the stamp set. I'm going to stamp my jar and I'm going to use these flowers today, but you could take your pick of which ones you want to use. So first of all, I've got the jar that I'm going to do. I'm just going to make sure that's well inked. Because we're colouring with blends, Memento ink is the ink to use with that one. Then I've also, which I didn't show you just now, got the stems because they go obviously into the jar. So I'm just going to ink those up as well. And I'm just going to stamp them so they go just under that rim there. And then I'm going to stamp my flowers. So you've obviously got a choice of 4 different types of flowers, so you could choose one of the others if you wanted to. We are going to be fussy cutting this, but it's not too difficult to cut out actually. Okay, we will need the ink in a moment for our sentiment, but we'll leave that for now. Just trying to see where I've just put the lid. There we go. My lid for that one. And now we're going to start colouring. So I'm going to start with my jar, and I'm using the lightest shade of Pool Party, and I'm just going to colour around the edge of those stems. And this is obviously giving the impression that I've got some water in there. Keep that colour handy because we'll come back to that in a moment. And then I've tried to pick a few different shades of greens out. So I've picked out my Granny Apple Green and my Old Olive, both colours again, because I want to have a bit of a mixture of the colours on my stems. So this first one that I'm using is light Granny Apple Green, and for this I'm going to need to obviously use the thinner end. I'm just going to colour in a few in that colour, and then I'm going to take my light Old Olive again with my thinner end. So we're just trying to get a bit of depth in here, just by using the different colours. It just, obviously not all flowers have the same colour stem on them, so it's quite nice to swap and change them. I think I'll stick with 3 colours actually. So this is the darker of the Old Olive here. And then you'll see I've just got a few little gaps there now which need to be coloured in with the Pool Party. So I'm just going to go with my thinner end and just colour those in. Bits that need colouring in. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to keep those greens handy because I will need those in a moment for the stems on my flowers. So I wanted to coordinate with the background and with the ribbon that I'm using, which I'm using up some retired ribbon actually, because unfortunately the one I'd used earlier on I ran out of. So this is actually the Daffodil Delight Ruched ribbon. So I've tried to coordinate all my colours around the background and the ribbon and everything else. So I've picked out the 2 Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, I've still got the Calypso Corals here, and then I've just added in light cherry cobbler because there's some sort of berries on here that I wanted to pick out as well. Now each time I've coloured them in, I've done them slightly differently. If I just show you here, so my first one I did with sort of this yellow and then these Calypso Coral. This one I changed it around and I had those yellow. So it really is up to you how you want to do it each time. You could also obviously go for completely different colours to me if you wanted to. So I think this time, being different again, I'm going with the pumpkin pie. So I'm just going to use the dark one. I'm not going to use it all over. I'm just going to use it on some of the edges and some of the bits that you often get, these bits that come out from the centre on flowers, don't you, that are a bit darker. And the nice thing about the blends is that you can get different looking effects with them each time you use them. So by using the lighter pumpkin pie, you could get quite a different look now, blending it over the darker one. So I'm using the thinner end just because as it's a small image, it's just a little bit easier to colour in, but you could use the thicker end if you preferred. There we go. And I'm going to use the dark Calypso Coral, I think, for the centres of my flowers. Then I'm going to go with the darker Daffodil Delight for this little flower here. And then I'm going to go with my light Calypso Coral, I think. On this one, I'm just going to colour in the whole thing, and then I'm going to pick up some areas with the darker one in a moment. So, like I say, I haven't done any colouring in projects for a while, so it's quite a change actually. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the darker Calypso Coral now, so I can just go back to some of these areas. Now it's coming out quite dark actually. I'm not entirely sure that I want it to be that dark, so what we can always do, if it feels like it's just a little bit too dark, is we can always take the lighter one again and go back over with that. It will just blend the colours a little more so they're not quite so in your face. And I'm happier with that, a little bit more blended together, which of course is what the pens are for. So I'm just going to use this red to colour in these little berries. So we've got a few of those dotted around. And Then I'm gonna go back in obviously with my pens now to get some colour on the foliage. So these little bits here, like the kind of spiky leaves, they've come out obviously in black as I stamped them, so I'm just going to put some colour over the top of them, keeping it nice and simple. Then I'm going to go, I think, with my light old olive to pick up this line here, and they again look a bit like sort of buds on there, so, or berries, so I'm just going to leave them white. Those ones look like they might be leaves opposed to berries there. Stem down there, and then I think with the ones with the berries we want something quite dark, so I'm going to go for the darkest old olive onto these leaves here. And then if when you're looking at it you sort of spot any bits that you think need a bit more colour, you can go back in. I think I might have missed a little berry here. I'm just going to pick up a bit of red on those bits in the centre just to help them to stand out a bit. And a tiny bit of orange in the centre of that one. I think I'm happy with that. So next part we have is for cutting out. So the jar, nice and simple. We've got the punch for that one, so that's okay. I'm just going to put down a piece of card in there. Line it up. Just press down to grab it. Make sure you're happy with where it is, and then punch out. So that's all ready. And then this one we're going to need to fussy cut this one. So using my Stampin Up snips, which are nice and sharp, I'm going to try to turn the card rather than turning the scissors. And also try not to close the scissors completely. That turning and keeping the length of the scissors should give you a nicer sort of edge as you're cutting around. And we're going in fairly close if we can. Sort of just leaving that little white edge that would happen if we were using the punch or a die to cut it out. There we go. And that's it. So all ready for sticking on now with our jar. So we're going to bring back our background piece. That's going to sit up there. That's going to sit on top there. And then Bo's going to finish it off. So I'm going to stick my jar on just with some Tombow. And that's going to sit in the middle, fairly close to the bottom. You've got enough room to fit the flowers. And then the flowers, I'm just going to mount them with some dimensionals just to raise it up slightly. So sort of one in each corner. And then, oops, butterfingers. Yeah, and one in the middle. Should be fine. Just going to peel those backs off. And then, like I said earlier, we're going to sit it so that it kind of goes just over the top of the jar so that it looks like it's attached to our stems there. Okay, so I'm going to tie my bow now. So I'm just going to tie 2 bunny ears and cross them over. Then I'm just going to hold on to my knot and pull that end to make that a bit shorter. Hold my knot again and pull the other side until I'm happy with the size of the loops. Just test that one there. I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to cut off that side. And I'm going to stick that down with a glue dot. Just going to pop that there. And then just tidy up that end on that side. So that is my main part done now. So we're going to bring back the card base, which is our very vanilla. I'm just going to burnish my fold on that. And then we're going to put our sentiment at the bottom here. So I'm just using a thank you from a different set that's come from Freya's bird. And back with my Memento Black. I'm just going to stamp that. You could stamp it at the top if you want to. I'm just going to stamp that at the bottom. So I'm just going to line up my card base and use my grid lines just to help me to centre that. And then finally we're going to stick that on, so you can see you'll have a smaller gap at the top than you will at the bottom to allow for your sentiment there. So I'm just going to turn that over and stick it on with Tombow. Again, just line it up with your grid lines so that if you need to, you can use those to help you to make sure that you've got everything lined up nice and straight. And when you're happy, press that down. And that's your card done. So we've got 3 cards, all ever so slightly different because of the way that I've coloured in the flowers. A couple obviously with different bows. But a nice, quick, effective card, or rather I shouldn't say quick because it wasn't as quick with the colouring in, but a very effective card anyway to pass on to somebody else to say thank you in my case, or if you wanted to, you could use a different sentiment. So just a quick rundown of what we've used. So the stamp set was the jar of flowers, which is in our main annual catalogue, which coordinates with the jar punch. And then the colours that we've used, we have Very Vanilla as our card base, a C6 card base, a piece of Petal Pink, measuring 8 centimetres by 12 centimetres, some basic white for our stamping, and then the inks that we've used are Memento Black ink for our stamping, and then we have coloured in with a variety of blends, but the main colours that I've used are Calypso Coral for the background and for some of the flowers, Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, Cherry Cobbler, Granny Apple Green, and Old Olive. I think that's it. And then on this one, then we've used the gold shimmer ribbon. This one we have used the retired Daffodil Delight Ruched ribbon. So if there's anything at all that you'd like to ask about any of those designs, please get in touch and I will do my best to help you. If you'd like to place an order for any of the things that I've used as well, please do drop me a message and I will help you to sort out an order with whatever you need. So I hope to see you again next week. We'll be carrying on with the same stamp set, same punch, but with something a little different next week. So I hope you can join me then. Take care. Have a good week. Bye.